Lavina, I feel so terrible. Honestly, I was about to take my
Do you know what?
phone, my brand new phone, and throw it out of the window.
You are amazing. I don't know how you've managed to do this. For once, I actually put some makeup on.
You'd have been on your own in your house
empty.
with makeup on.
I know. How sad am I? Midlife crisis or what? So the whole house is empty. All the boys are out. My husband, my 3 boys, and the poor dog's just looking at me because he thinks I'm going out because he knows when I wear makeup. Mummy's leaving me as well.
It was just frustrating. That was all.
We need to do like.
I was just annoyed to let you down and like everybody down the rest of the life. But Lavina, let's just, because I know everybody's busy and I always try and keep lives to about half an hour. So first of all, I'm going to, sorry if it's a bit wobbly sometimes. First of all, I want to say thanks very much for doing this with me. And I want to find out a bit more about you just in case people, you know, don't know who you are. I met you through Menopause Mandate. And we are both Meno warriors, but I know you're a PT and you're like really keen to kind of help people with their fitness through this stage of their life. But tell me a bit more about you and how you got to where you are.
Firstly, I should be thanking you. So I've been manifesting this live since I watched your documentary, and I don't know if you know that I mentioned your amazing Channel 4 documentary. It's been life-changing for me because that's when the penny dropped for me, and I literally burst into tears to the point where my husband and youngest son rushed up from watching football and had to watch the documentary with me. We rewound it. It changed everything at home. It changed.
I'm so pleased.
For me, it was life-changing. And yeah, I've only been a personal trainer for 5 years. So I'm a mum to 3 amazing boys. My youngest is 16 on Monday, which I think is your birthday as well. I thought so. Yeah, that's what I keep saying to him. But I remember last year, wishing you happy birthday together. So yeah, I was actually working in the corporate world. I was like a global project manager in my early 20s. I wasn't into fitness growing up, especially being South Asian. You know, that's where I'm really keen to keep raising awareness and education about the importance
when you said I wasn't into my fitness in my early 20s, especially being South Asian, is that a thing?
I feel I would generalize it. It's definitely changing. I actually raised a big campaign just before the pandemic, and it was called Get UK Asians Fit, because I was alarmed at the statistics around diabetes, heart disease. We're 6 times more likely at the time to have diabetes than the average white person in the UK. We were twice as more likely to have heart disease. And yeah, growing up, I kind of ticked the boxes at school, bunked a lot of lessons as soon as my periods came. And it was nothing really formal. Like there wasn't like this thing where we send our kids to all these different activities and sports. I did things like Indian dancing, and I played an Indian instrument, and I learned Gujarati. But my parents came in the 60s, and I never saw them exercising.
I mean, they do now, madly.
Right?
Well,
and
my mum does now.
Yeah.
She'll go walking and everything. She's a lot more aware, but it wasn't a thing back then.
Exactly. No, and my mum said, you know, I keep busy because they were so hardworking. They came here from Kenya, you know, they started from scratch. She said, I'm always on my feet, which she still, touch wood, is. She's 77. You know, she doesn't have a cleaner. She does everything. She's a chef and everything. So yoga, I would say, is probably the only thing that she's kept consistent over the last 10 years. And she got into swimming later in life, but she had that growing up in Mombasa and like in India. So yeah, it was just in my 30s, Davina, when I'd given up my corporate role after fighting for a part-time job share, and it hadn't worked out. When I had my 3rd son, I thought, this is not going to work, you know, that type of career. And in my 30s, when he got into kindergarten, I went into the gym and I was jumping around different classes, having coffee mornings with all the mums. And it was only when I got into strength training with my own personal trainer, and I just fell in love with what weights did for me. I had never lifted anything. I'd never been physically fit. I'd put on a lot of weight after pregnancy, you know, like a lot of us do. I was eating for two. My mum's a chef. I love food. I can't cut it out even now. And it was more what strength training did for me mentally. Yes, I lost the weight and I got, you know, my muscle mass, my whole body composition changed. But I went through life experiences, things that we really find hard to deal with, like grief. And it was that kept me sane. And that's why I say exercise for sanity, not vanity. That's like become my slogan. And I feel like it is reframed the whole way I look at fitness, on how it makes me feel. And it just makes me feel empowered. Like people see little Lavina lifting heavy weights, but I really want to encourage everyone. It doesn't have to be heavy, but we do need to start looking at our muscle mass. You know, I really feel like that's often the missing piece of a jigsaw in people's fitness routines, even people that have been training for years, right?
I didn't start doing weights again. I've spent such a long time. I often think with women, a big thing for us is that we think that we will get thin if we do lots of cardio, or lots of cardio will keep you thin.
Yeah.
But in fact, you know, things like weight training is brilliant for bones as well. And also,
exactly,
especially at my, how old are you, Lavina? You look
so
great.
I'm 45.
You look very kind of,
and,
I don't know, happy in your skin.
Do you know, there's some sort of confidence I feel. I'm doing what I love. This was never planned. I qualified as a personal trainer, like I helped write my mum's last book, which I still have to give you, Davina, because I couldn't hand it to you that day in Parliament. Well, I've got yours, and I always have her book on my desk. So this is the book that I typed that's making your way to you. And this is why it's Feel Good with Lavina. I just randomly chose an Instagram handle because of Feel Good with Food. And she's a biological scientist. So the book's designed like a rainbow. She, like me, just focused on bringing the kids up, got me and my brother into secondary school, and then started writing, and cookery became her passion. She started doing classes, teaching vegetarian cookery.
This is so interesting. You know, I mean, Lavina, it's so funny, isn't it, when people start coming into your life and everybody's saying the same thing. And sometimes I think, God, if everybody's telling me this, it's a sign. Like, I had a talk, you know, Fed. I did a really great talk with her because you've done one as well, haven't you? You've done a live with Fed recently. So,
yes, and I thank you for the shout out. Yeah, like, I love being part
and
of
her book's great, isn't it? But she's got this really brilliant way of looking at it. That it should be vegetables and protein. Vegetables, because we always used to say when I was a little girl, oh, what are you going to have? Oh, I'm going to get my meat and 2 veg. So as if meat was the most important and the 2 veg are just a side thing to kind of make the meat taste nicer. But in fact, it should be like veg, and then your protein is your sidekick, you know. Well, and there's protein in veg as well. It's 100%. Like, and well, pulses and lentils and couscous and
Indian food. I mean, Indian food is amazing. I'm Jain, actually, so that's, I don't know if you've even heard of that religion, but I'm even stricter technically than the Hindu religion. So really, we should be having nothing grown under. So yeah, have you heard of Jainism?
Heard of Jainism, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah, so I mean, I was talking to Tim Spector about this, and another interview I was doing, because growing up, I just said I was Hindu because it was easier, because, you know, it was kind of like I had a lot of, you know, white friends, and I just kind of, we embrace the Hindu religion, but we're actually stricter. So our religion is literally all plant-based, but it's all about non-violence. It's about karma. It's about literally any vegetables are grown underground could potentially have life in them. So they're very strict, but I'm a very modern Jain. But mum, obviously Indian food, like the spices, she's written about the science. She's a biological scientist, so she wrote about the power of things like spices and all the benefits. And you know now how people are crazy over
any
things
kind
like
of
turmeric.
adaptogen, you know, ginger, ashwagandha,
Yeah,
all those kind of.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, anyway, I did type my mum's book up when I was heavily pregnant. That's her like legacy. And similarly, when I found exercise and what it done for me, I just decided to do the PT courses in the evenings, not even telling anyone, out of my own interest. It was never supposed to be a career as such. It's only when I started training friends, because they found out I'd qualified and I had a little space in the basement. And it was amazing, Davina. It was before the pandemic. I just did the school run, came back. I got fully booked with women between the age of 30 to 70. It wasn't always about weight loss. We were talking about menopause. Like, you know, this is going back 5 years. I looked on my very dated website, and mainly South Asian women, to try and encourage them for a holistic approach. So don't just go for the cardio, but focus on our mobility, our strength, our muscle mass. Don't be intimidated. It's not going to bulk you up.
Isn't it? Because I used to be that person. I don't want to do strength training because I'm going to get too big. And now I wish I could gain that kind of muscle like I used to be able to. It's very hard.
So hard. It's so hard. I mean, we lose, you know, I say to everyone that, so my whole, you know, philosophy around is around the science behind exercise. Like that's what I'm writing about in my book as well. And it's disease risk reduction. So, you know, I'm an ambassador now with Diabetes UK and Alzheimer's Society, and I have diabetes. It's rife in my own family. On my mum's side, my grandfather had it. Alzheimer's my grandmother had, and it's a taboo subject in the South Asian community. It was never ever openly discussed because people just didn't want to, just felt like they were going mad, right? And it's amazing what exercise can do to us. Like the simple free thing, exercise can reduce our risk of so many chronic illnesses, and we lose our muscle mass actually once you start turning 30, but obviously through menopause it can be up to, I read, 3 to 8%, you know, varying on each woman. And it's, like you say, really hard to build that muscle mass, but that is going to help you if your goal is to lose weight, which, you know, I talk about exercise on how it makes us feel rather than how we look. But obviously we want to have a healthy weight to reduce our risks of things like type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes. But it helps control your blood sugars. It helps us reduce our risks of things like osteoporosis. It helps against dementia and Alzheimer's. And
because osteoporosis is a really big one that exercise can massively help. And we know that HRT can reverse some of the effects of osteoporosis even, but it definitely defends a woman if you're perimenopausal against bone density loss. But if you can't take HRT, literally any doctor will say weight bearing exercise is page 1. So just to describe what a bone looks like when it's losing its density, we talked about this in the first documentary, and we said, you know, a Cadbury's Whisper is a healthy bone.
Yeah, crunchy.
And then a Cadbury's, is it Cadbury's Aero? But anyway, an Aero is a bone with osteoporosis or osteopenia. Osteopenia is like the start of osteoporosis. But it's not something that you are powerless over. Weight-bearing exercise and just walking, right, Lavina, is weight-bearing exercise.
You know what? Feel good walks every day. I stick them on my stories, and it's something, it's my therapy. It's the thing that keeps me sane. I have never been an outdoorsy person when I was younger. I used to bunk, like, oh my God, lacrosse, cross country, outdoor swimming at school. I used to hate it. As soon as I got my periods, I'd get my mom to write a note. Now it is the opposite. I just need that nature. I need the outdoors. I don't care if it's raining, if I've got rain odds and I'm freezing cold, I'm still out there because it's what it does up here. And it's that release of endorphins. It's the power of nature. You know, we have these things called fractals, which are the geometric shapes. So if you look around when you're walking, I'm always like, maybe switch off your phone and literally just look around you, take in all your senses. The power of nature is incredible, but walking, I feel, is free, it's accessible. What I found, obviously, you know, with the workouts, I don't know if you've seen the workouts I do with my dear mother-in-law. She's now 75, and we kicked them off during the pandemic when I was doing the lives with my husband and son twice a day. I then decided to help the elderly, and you know, just getting your steps in. I say to them that if you can't get out, because as we approach winter, and we did in the pandemic, just do your stairs. And there's science behind stair snacking, which, you know, is obviously things that I'll be writing about in my book. I just recommend 3 flights of stairs 3 times a day. Ideally, if you can move after meals or tie it to an existing habit, so just do it after breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah, getting your steps in, that's weight bearing. I feel I can't do the amount of HIIT training that I used to do in my 30s. And that was also partly because of my perimenopause. I started getting that joint pain. And I'd not realized I went through perimenopause at the age of 40 when I kicked this whole PT thing off. It was suppressed. It was only the penny dropped last year when I watched your documentary. And that's something, especially, you know, I try and raise as much awareness about the South Asian differences with menopause. South Asian women can actually go through perimenopause and menopause 5 to 6 years earlier, is what the studies are showing at the moment. So if the average age of menopause for a white female is 51, you could start looking back around 45. But if perimenopause is 10 years, we're talking about late 30s potentially. And I know everyone is different, but I think we need to really highlight this. And this is something I'll be doing again on World Menopause Day with Menopause Mandate, is Black and Asian communities are likely to go through it earlier. So I always say to women, you know, like, please be in tune with your body. And when we get fobbed off, you know, when we go to the GPs all these years, it's the stuff that we're doing around raising awareness that please kind of listen to your body, push back, go in empowered, and be an advocate for yourself in those appointments, because it can often, mine kicked off at 40. It was like my birthday present. My period started going erratic, and I suppressed it over the pandemic. So I actually thought some of it's COVID,
post-COVID. Are South Asian women getting better at talking about it to each other, or is it still a bit of a taboo subject?
So what did I say to you when I met you? I said, we've got to go live, because every day, Davina, I am still getting messages. Like, even though we feel like we are out there, and I'm saying this as loud as I can, and you know, it's amazing I can be on your platform and share this as well. It's still a taboo subject. There's communities that we're not filtering down to. You know, I've been to, like, Neasden Temple is one of the largest communities, like my Oshwal community, in the Asian community in London. I went to International Women's Day and I talked about menopause in front of all generations. And yes, there's women in their 30s and 40s that I feel are still in denial. There's other women that are suffering in silence because they're still in these cultural barriers. Like, I used to live in a joint family. There were 9 of us in the house. Just for me to go to the gym, I used to feel a little bit guilty about, because we're all about caring for others. You put yourself last. Yeah. And when you put yourself last and you're looking after the elderly or your in-laws and your children, like proper sandwich generation that potentially starts earlier being South Asian, because you're in these environments and family is such a big thing, that you just put everything, like any symptoms, you kind of bury them and you just crack on with it, right? And it's when I went like public with my perimenopause, then the day after your documentary, I went on Instagram pretty much in tears. And the ripple effect is why I got involved with Menopause Mandate, because there were women at rock bottom from my communities, and they find it very hard to publicly say anything on my posts. So you will see engagement is low.
People are frightened, but in case other people see that they've either supported you or even followed you, they have to secretly follow you.
I agree. Oh my God, they secretly DM me. They message me. It's all very hidden away because nobody wants anyone else to see. You don't want to like have your dirty laundry out there. But I've been so open, you know, even going live with my husband, Menel, is like the most vulnerable live I've ever done. And it was probably shocking. You know, I'm like trying to break the taboos in our community. I'm
when
talking
did you
about
do that one
periods out there.
Is it on your page?
Oh my gosh. I think it's on my page. I just can't watch it, but please watch it, because we've had lots of people. I mean, he wasn't comfortable at first. We were on our way to a black tie gig and the car, and I said, you know what, as a South Asian man, and you've seen what I've gone through, like I had 3 or 4 years where I had all these symptoms. I was going live twice a day. I just suppressed it. The pennies dropped. You know what I'm doing now. And he was really proud of me, like just being brave and talking about this openly. And I said, the next step, Menel, is just to get a South Asian man.
Look what I got.
Yo.
Hey.
I got a
Oh, look
tea.
at him.
How are you doing? You all right?
Hello. Lavina.
Lavina, and you're Davina.
With a look.
This is a brand waiting to happen. I can feel it already.
I just get goosebumps. That's when I saw her last week or the week before. I was like, are your ears burning? Because now all I say is I'm Davina with an L, because everyone calls me Lavina.
Lavinia. I'm
and
Lavina
like,
with a D.
No.
Oh my God.
I love it.
I joined, your numbers went up. Bang!
You're the most beautiful man.
Do you know what do you think of my hair? What do you think of my hair? I actually did something to my hair. I was like, I had no makeup on, slapped on. I would have been on my own if this live hadn't gone on this evening. I would have held my hair.
You have put
some
lipstick on. You look great. Your hair looks
look
fantastic.
Great, yeah.
Whereas yours, on the other hand, what has happened here?
Don't take it down.
He could do his magic. Just put your fingers.
I'm in
magic
studio tomorrow, so I have
£300.
Thank you for my tea.
That's all right.
You're the best.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something else? He also made dinner. He's the keeper.
Not watching this.
He's a keeper.
He's amazing. You always look amazing.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Menel.
So also the other thing, Lavina, I want to ask you very quickly. Have you experienced any bad, like negative comeback of people? Has anybody said to you, you shouldn't be talking about this, stop?
No, in fact, you know what? It's so weird that I'm now, even in the workouts I do every Friday with the elderly, I talk about menopause, I talk about pelvic floor, I talk about vaginal health. Just the word vagina in front of my mother-in-law, I have like broken the barrier of like, and she, I mean, we have a great relationship, but people just think, you know, she must be Lavina's mum. How can you be exercising with your mother-in-law? Because that's another taboo in the South Asian community that, you know, people just don't get on.
That your generation is going to change the South Asian community forever, really? It's like because I feel like you know, you're in that situation, but I also feel like we're slightly in that situation where our mothers didn't speak to us about it, and we are all beginning to talk about it. I mean, nobody talked about vaginas anywhere in the public domain ever when I was growing up, but it feels very refreshing to just be able to not be so embarrassed about anything. And also, I think really importantly, and I've talked a lot about Sam. Have you talked to Sam Evans?
Yes, I've met Sam a few times. She's
definitely got to do a live with her.
Yeah, we should.
Her message is so beautiful because it is, why should we not all have the right to enjoy sexual pleasure? And it doesn't necessarily have to be with someone. It can just be feeling sexy as a person. And hitting midlife, you know, when we start to feel invisible. And you said, you know, you lost 3 years of your life. I also lost 3 years of my life. I was told I was too young too. And I'm devastated by that, because life after 50 now, I feel like every minute is precious. And, you know, you and I lost 3 years. And you think, God, that is very frustrating. Anyway, let's get back to exercise very quickly. How somebody was saying, strength exercising sounds scary. How do I start?
Okay, so shall I introduce
please.
them to exercise snacking?
That sounds like a great thing. You said the word snacking.
We've talked about the chocolates. It's not, unfortunately, it's not holding a chocolate and doing your squats, but it's scientifically backed. Obviously, I'm writing about it. I actually discovered it in 2018, and then I went on Sky News when I did this crazy Advent exercise snack calendar. And it's literally to show you that it is as effective, if not greater, than the hour-long workout that we all can't fit into our lives. And I feel like, especially, well, I mean, unless you can get up, and I can't get up earlier than I am already getting up at 6:30, to do like the school run and the packed lunches and all that kind of stuff. I think so. There's a lot of angles here with perimenopause and menopause. We know that when you haven't had good sleep, when you've got joint pains, which is so common, when you're feeling depressed, when you're feeling anxious, and you just lost that mojo to even exercise, right? This is where I feel like it is the perfect solution to at least get people started and know that even 1 minute counts. And I've got snacks for everything, whether it's just a simple stretch snack, whether it's some desk exercises, you can do while we're sitting and we're literally hunched over all the time and our backs and everything's starting to ache even more. It's going to boost your mood. And I'm talking at the coffee machine, trying to do some press ups against the kitchen counter. And that's, things that are going to strengthen your body, but it's just your body weight to start off with. Doing squats. I would love everyone when they're watching TV at night, every hour, or when the ad breaks come on, when you're watching Davina on TV, you get up and you just do 10 sit and stands, right? It just becomes part of your normal.
I mean, it's interesting because whenever I talk about a rest day, because people say, do you work out every day? And I said, no, of course not. I work out usually 3 times a week. I'd love to work out more, but my rest days are active. I'm up, down, changing, walking, walking up the escalator, down the escalator, to the tube, to the bus. It's keeping moving. So if you are at a sedentary job by a desk, I love this idea of the sit, stand, or press ups in the kitchen. People will start laughing at you, but they'll be joining you before they know it.
You know what? I mean, I go into workplaces and I literally have said in LinkedIn and YouTube that I want everyone at the coffee machine to be doing their press ups. I want everyone in the canteen line waiting for their lunch to just be doing their lunges or their squats. I mean, the top 5 bodyweight exercises that require no equipment that you guys could all try are things like dips. I mean, I would get you to do it now with me, right? We could just do a few dips off the chair. You just try with your legs bent. Even if you do 1 and you just build up to 10, you go to the wall, you start up your press ups at the wall before you even get down to the floor. You do lunges, you do squats, and maybe a plank. And maybe glute bridges, that's 6, right? And it's not doing everything in one go. It just means that every hour, and it's scientifically backed now, that in terms of things, they've even done a study on type 1 diabetics that I've been writing and researching, but especially with type 2, we know that exercise and lifestyle changes can help reverse chronic illnesses like that. And through menopause, we are going to be more susceptible to things like diabetes. Heart disease is World Menopause Awareness Month, whole theme. We've talked about dementia and Alzheimer's. We've talked about, like just lifting your mood, just to make you feel better. Those endorphins, if we just did 10 seconds of boxing here, and I'm talking a study that I've included in my book is a 4-second burst of something fun. It could just be the star jumps that I do with my mother-in-law seated. It could be if you're stuck on Zoom, and that's what's so difficult, Davina, is that if you have got a job where you're at your desk, and if you go to the gym in the morning for that hour, there's a study showing that 2 hours of sitting will actually negate 20 minutes of exercise. And we're sitting for like 8 to 10 hours a day on average if you're at your desk. So I just want people to maybe try and snack on little bite-sized amounts, whether it's a minute, 2 minutes, whatever you can fit in, and that you can build up to the government guidelines of exercise they're quite daunting, and they're just really hard to fit into our daily lifestyles, I
Okay,
feel.
so if you're into exercise and you want to find out about what to do or what Lavina's talking about with her snacking and everything, follow her page. Everything that you need to find out about Lavina is on her page. The other thing I quickly wanted to ask you, because a few people are on here going, I've lost years of my life. I've talked about how I finally got a diagnosis of perimenopause, and then finally talked through HRT, which I did after looking at all the options to decide to take. What was your journey to actually finally getting a diagnosis, and how did you do it?
So I've shared my journey quite openly on here, and so it is all saved there. And what happened was, when I did, kind of break down publicly on my social media, I got that whole influx. And I would say probably the only thing that differs with you and me is that I'm annoyed that I didn't catch this earlier, because I would have gone through this, unplanned career change, and going on social media and becoming public facing was never part of the plan. I would have just gone through everything a lot easier. But what I kind of reframe it as is that even though I was going through perimenopausal symptoms and I was kicking off a new career path, it was things like exercise and lifestyle changes that have actually helped me through it.
And when I went perimenopausal, or were you told by a doctor, look, you're too young, you can't be?
Yeah, so when I went, because I was under 45, and my doctor, like most GPs, weren't trained even a year ago. Now we're seeing how much things are changing, even in the space of a year, I feel. I was dismissed at first, but because I was in the space, and because I had got quite a lot of education myself, and obviously your book is literally, I'm just thrilled you've got this book out there, because it's the Bible. I was dismissed at first, and then I wasn't sure whether you need a blood test or not. So I really pushed for the blood test, and I said, I'm under 45. I just want to rule out things like thyroid, my iron, my vitamin D. And it was a point in time, and it's only because I had my symptom list, and that's what I always say to women, is that we need to make sure that women are armed. And I went through, got to write it all down. You'll probably forget in that appointment, like, as South Asian women, you might have language issues, cultural issues. You don't want to talk about things.
But
you just don't feel comfortable.
If you write something down, if you write your symptoms down, all of them, including vaginal dryness, and you pass it to the doctor, it's much easier than saying it out loud.
Much easier. And then I wasn't sure kind of, what I wanted to do. I've gone down the NHS route on purpose, because I wanted to be that South Asian woman that can't afford to go private. And it's been an education between me and my GP. I think, to be honest, I've kind of guided her, because I've been reading so many books, and I'm part of Menopause Mandate, and I listen, and I'm absorbing podcasts and things all the time, and I'm writing about it. But that's where I feel the gap is, Davina, is that how do we help women that are still potentially so lost? How do we get our messages out there to help more and more people? And we've got to filter it down to people that may not even have access to social media, and be able to watch all of our lives all the time. And that's why your book is like, and I recommend it to everyone, it's so powerful. But yeah, it's hard, because South Asian women are going to go through menopause a little bit earlier than the average white female, and we also need to make sure we're in the research, right? Women's health has not been represented until like late 90s in all of science, so there's a lot of work to be done still.
But the other thing I really like
but
about
I do think
is that, I know you didn't mean to be an activist, but you're really very good at it. And also, I tell you why, because you're a good communicator. And so I think good communicators need to get out there and communicate. You've got a message to get out there, and it needs to be heard. And I'm going to wrap up, because I think we've been about half an hour. But I just wanted to say you're an absolutely brilliant woman.
Oh, you know what, Davina, it's more, if I can just help one woman off this live. I could just help one person a day. I mean, I feel like this is my purpose now, and it's not about numbers. It's just knowing that someone out there is not suffering in silence, and that's thanks to people like you. I have a lot to thank to you, especially, you know, for all the incredible work that you're doing. You can see the love. You have changed this space so much, and I feel like women's health as a whole, we've got a lot of work to do, but we'll just keep talking, right? And we'll just keep sharing our journeys, and hopefully help you guys realize you can get through it.
We talk to you again in a couple of months. We should have a little recap.
I would love that. I would love that. Thank you so much for having me on.
Everyone, I love lending me your mum, wife, daughter-in-law, daughter.
Yay! Yay! They all love you. My family love you. I'm a much better person now, knowing, you know, kind of what I'm going through with my
It does help everyone.
It helps
around you.
around
I showed
you.
my son the documentary, and it helped him too.
Exactly. My dad talks about
brilliant, though,
South Asian man.
Love you.
It's amazing. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Bye.
Lavina, thank you, hon.